three main sections of it. And for the first section, I talk about the IFSC itself in kind of fairly broad terms. Then I'll probably break out of that into Irish credit and the use of Irish finance type products that are being used in the Irish economy at the moment, and then given a case study of one of these of a special purpose vehicle that was paid out like 2 weeks ago, and just give it an indication of how the Irish bourgeoisie operate. I think we know already how they operate. They're not very good at covering it up, but just to get a clear kind of overview of that in itself. So by starting off, we just look at the IFSC itself. This is from a brochure of the Irish funds industry. So this is them selling themselves. This is self-identification, I suppose, is like one way of putting it. But there's over 167 countries. There's $2.5 trillion in assets being managed in the IFSC. The IFSC is the Irish Financial Services Centre. And even though it has a hard physical presence in the Docklands, really the IFSC exists in the mind of whoever's Minister for Finance at the time. It's a virtual tax haven world in the mind of the Minister for Finance. If he or she says that it's in it, then it's in it. The IFSC itself more or less ceased to operate around 2005 in terms of kind of actual tax breaks themselves. And this ties into why the 12.5% corporation tax rate is being resisted so strongly by the Irish bourgeoisie, because it now applies to every corporation in the Irish state. Instead of raising corporation tax when the tax exemption ended in 2005 to the national rate, they lowered the national rate to the IFSC rate. So now Paddy Power, well, they're based in the Isle of Man, but like Supermax pays 12.5% on their corporation tax. But he would have paid a 25% prior to 2005. So when you hear the 12.5%, and not to hark on about this, being kind of defended, what they're defending is Irish corporations paying that rate, because how this operates, that rate doesn't really apply in Greek anymore. So there's $2.5 trillion in assets being managed in the IFSC, very little of which ends up in the Irish economy. But that which does ends up in the hands of intermediaries. I'm going to make the argument that the dominant form of business in Ireland is a form of comprador business. It doesn't explain every business, but it does explain those who have a hold on national economic policy and how national economic policy is directed. This is what I'm going to argue. But as I said, it goes through the hands of Irish businesses, and it goes through their hands pretty much in this way. This is from another brochure. They never lie in their brochures. Their brochures are great. This is from Arthur Cox & Co. I was texting a friend of mine there yesterday saying that I don't know whether there is a portal in this world where evil enters the world, but if there is, it's probably somewhere in the bowels of the offices of Arthur Cox & Co. They are just reprehensible human beings, and I'm glad that's been taken. But what happens is that if financial assets are brought into Ireland, they're put into special purpose vehicles, and then they're sold on to investors. And those who handle a lot of the paperwork are the intermediaries, the stockbrokers, the lawyers, the accountants. And these are the ones who really benefit from these, from this trade here. And this is self-identification. This is how Arthur Cox sees its role. I was trying to draw an image of what they do, and Arthur Cox handed this to me. This is what they actually see Ireland as. Ireland is just an SPV to them. That's all it is. In terms of this, the IFSC itself, it's formed in 1987. The dominant narrative is that it came out of a dinner meeting, like lunch, whatever, in between Dermot Desmond and Charlie Haughey. Although it seems now, there was a book there brought out like last year, Tax Havens, which says that a lot of the impetus for the setting up of the IFSC came from the city of London. And they were kind of making kind of moves in the early to mid 1980s. So there's a lot going on in the city of London, and them using Ireland as an offshore tax haven. The Dublin Stock Exchange is an adjunct of the London Stock Exchange anyway. But it was sold to the Irish people as jobs. This is what it was going to bring. It's going to bring jobs and money and cake for everyone. And by 1991, the dream is starting to lose its flavour on the bedpost overnight. This is This is Frank MacDonald who was talking about it here. But when it was kind of set up, there were two main countries that moved into the IFSC. And these are the ones who really kind of benefited at the start from the IFSC. And the two countries that march en masse into the IFSC are Ireland and Germany. So Irish companies march into the IFSC, and overnight they're able to slash their tax obligations on foreign transactions. So AIB's global centre moves into the IFSC, which means that those export-traded financial transactions are now part of the tax exemption. The other block is Germany, from a very early stage. The first corporation that moves into IFSC is AIB, a global centre, and the next is a German bank whose name I can't think of now. But they start moving in, and Ireland starts to play a key role in German finance in the late 1980s, early 1990s. And the main reason that's kind of given forward is reunification in Germany. There was taxes being kind of brought in on financial transactions to help pay for the reunification of the German state. And German finance just got the hell out. And where they went, in one place anyway, it was Ireland. By 2001, you have German banks writing drafts of tax legislation for the Oireachtas. And I'm thinking of Deftel Bank here, who get the law changed so that they could then engage in mortgage-backed promissory notes. Do people know about DEFRA at all? DEFRA, it blew up in 2005. It's so far cost the German taxpayer about 105 billion euros. Frances Ruan was on the board of DEFRA. She now has the audacity to tell us how to handle money. And she was part of an organisation that has cost the German taxpayer to date 110 billion euros. And she would go on to TV and say, we need to do these things because she knows about economics. So there you go. USA isn't really kind of using Ireland as much. It's mainly kind of German, and it's mainly kind of European kind of finance. This is a tax haven. We should call it actually what it is. And how tax havens work is that they tend to end up specialising in certain areas. What Ireland kind of specialises in is financial vehicle corporations. This is the amount of financial vehicle. I just can't help saying kind of vehicle. A financial vehicle corporations in the euro area, and you see Ireland is just on command. In terms of the number that are listed as being domiciled in this, in this kind of jurisdiction, and they are listed as being kind of domiciled. Jim Stewart. A lot of what I draw upon in the IFSC comes from Jim Stewart in TCD. He's been ploughing a lonely furrow on this subject for kind of decades. But he did a sample survey of companies that were listed in the IFSC back in 2006. He did of like 400. He rang, and some of his researchers rang 40 of them, and he had 0 employees in the companies. These were brass plate operations. They're here just to book their profits here for the tax exemptions that come with them. I mean, by 1996, there's around 5,000 to 6,000 people working in the IFSC. By 1999, there's around 12,000, and by 2007, there's around 24,000. And the jump, I'm sure, if you work out just the dates, it's very obvious why. With the creation of the euro, there's a new product to trade, and the euro sees Ireland just seeing the IFSC being expanded in terms of euro-like transactions in these type of financial vehicles. There's something like, I counted about 40 mortgage-backed securities listed on the Irish Stock Exchange in 1998, and there's nearly 200 by 1999, and they're all in euros. Yeah. So of the numbers then, again, this is from the Banco de España, because you will not get information on this from the Central Bank of Ireland. I was going to the ECB. The ECB don't make it that easy. Whereas Google some of the reference numbers, and the National Bank of Spain, it came up as having listed them. They actually have broken them all into the various kind of sections for them. Why they've done it, I don't know. But even bigger, why hasn't the Central Bank of Ireland done this? But this is a breakdown of the type of financial intermediaries that are in Ireland. Because again, I'm going to use kind of IFSC as a shorthand for this sector. But really, the IFSC itself, it loses steam around 2005. But you can see that there's around 77 monetary and financial institutions, excluding like credit unions, 109 money market funds, special purpose vehicles. There's 776 mother ones, and then there's like listed around 4,036 listed on the Irish Stock Exchange, and these would be kind of subgroups or like sub PLCs in that. And then investment funds of 7,219. Did I take down the map? No, I didn't. Haha, yes. This is where they're more or less based. Most of them operate out of like 25 buildings. So you have like, what's that now? Three months isn't so great now. 8,000 of these instruments, of these kind of corporations, based in like 25 companies or 25 addresses. You know, that's a breakdown of where they are. And again, I put this map up just really to highlight. This is a regional economic policy, for want of a better word. The IFSC does benefit Dublin, but once you get past the M50, its effect on people's real lives just gets less and less and less and less and less. So its benefit is very much centred on the East Coast. Like what benefit does come off the IFSC, it stays in Dublin. But I'm sure we knew that already anyway. This is from the Irish funds. No, this is from the Irish funds industry. Again, I'm still trying to work out what they call credit institutions. I'm not quite sure what they call them yet. But we do know that after the bank guarantee was passed, the number that were listed here, within 4 weeks of the bank guarantee being passed, it jumps from 100 to 500. Because this is just paper being moved around. This is just emails, you know. And of course, the regulators in Ireland are known for being able to get you listed in Ireland. super fast. They're pronto print when it comes to getting this paperwork done. And they're known for it. That's Ireland's selling point. We don't look at things. We don't look at the books. We don't check. As Richard Murphy of the Tax Justice Network, if you get a chance, just check out anything written by Richard Murphy on this. He said, if you're going to set up a tax haven, and there's no point checking the books, because that goes against the whole point of having the Jesus tax haven in the first place. So Ireland doesn't check the books. Light touch, it's called, but that's what Ireland does, and it's super fast. So with the bank guarantee, remember, it passed to save Irish banks, and you just see money being listed here in the hundreds, and it is waiting on 4 weeks off. So all this is going on, and I think the Irish left, we can't say we anymore, it's a fractured Irish left after the first sentence, or after the first meeting. But ye, or I, or we, us, don't really look at this, and I think that we have to. It's incredible that the move towards the financialisation, like internationally, has been going on for about 25, 30 years now, or 40, if you listen to the monthly review guys. We're not really engaging kind of with this, and I hope that we do start with this. In terms of an Irish credit, and what Irish credit does, you just move on to that second part. How am I doing for time? Am I okay? This is from the Central Bank of Ireland. This is credit advanced to Irish resident private sector enterprises. And this is the outstanding credit, the private sector credit bill, if you want, of a better word. It's about 222 billion euros, of which 182 billion of which is tied up in financial intermediation, there's that phrase again, and property-related sectors. And remember, this is December 2011. As far as I know, NAMA isn't part of these figures because they've been taken off books. So this is the stuff this is what's left after it's been cleaned up. So what does financial intermediation mean in an Irish context? Because it's a suitably vague phrase. Well, again, when we look at where it goes into, Irish banks are giving out credit for investment in financial vehicle like corporations and property. So we're seeing these things again, these financial vehicle like corporations, these special purpose vehicles, and the term is more or less interchangeable. They're having an effect on how Irish capital is working its own money. So how do they work? What are they? What I want to focus on now, just kind of narrow in, is one particular aspect of it, and it's the mortgage-backed like securities, and how they affect Irish credit at the moment. I was trying to explain how it works to myself, and this is what I did. So this kind of makes sense to me. I hope it's clear here as well. The law that allowed mortgage-backed securities to be brought into Ireland, well, it was passed in 1991. Again, with pressure from German banks. So even in 1991, they're putting pressure on the legislator, on government to carve its laws in its image. And the Irish government is more than willing, or the Irish state, because the government's changed, but the state policy stays the same. And the Irish state is more than willing to do this. So again, the laws changed in 1991, and by 1992, the German banks that are based in the IFSC are issuing these mortgage-backed securities. The Irish banks get into it a bit late. In 1995 is the first one. November 1995, I think, is the first Irish mortgage-backed security. Bank of Ireland are issuing them from 1988, but in the UK. So it's the Bank of Ireland's a mortgage book in the UK, and they're securitizing that mortgage book in the UK. But you move into Ireland in 1995, with Irish Life Home Loans, who bundle £200 million of mortgages into one product and then sell that product as an investment in a product, on the world stage. Do people have an understanding of special purpose vehicles? Do we need to go through this at all, or do people know what I'm talking about?
I think you should say.
Okay, right. We have Bank of Ireland at the top there. They've got mortgages. Under banking rules, there are various kind of forms of it, but in very kind of general terms, for every £100 that a bank has, they have to keep £8 of that in the vault as kind of security, right? This kills banks. They hate it. It's dead money as far as they see it. Money is made when money is in motion. And they have to keep this kind of 8% under correct rules, and it kills them. So when they reach, so I can give out, all that can lend out is £92 of that £100. So when they reach that limit, if the economy isn't expanding enough to allow more kind of deposits in to expand their base, what they do is they've worked out a way of taking the risk from the loans that are on their books, selling that risk on, and regulators approve that this is as if the loans have been taken off the books. So in mortgages, the Bank of Ireland here, this is their first one. A residential property securities number 1 PLC. That's the very first one. They moved their mortgage book into Bank of Ireland home mortgages. Home mortgages then sold £200 million of that into a special purpose vehicle that's set up now by Bank of Ireland home mortgages, called residential property securities. They issue a bond, a paper, on the back of that, and that's traded. And that was listed, in this case, it was listed on the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, and investors then partake of that, given an interest payment based on the overnight kind of bank lending plus, I think, 0.6%. They give 200 million to residential property securities, for that investment. That makes its way back into the Bank of Ireland, so they get two things from that. They get £200 million to add to their capital base, and they get £200 million taken off their loan book. So one goes up and one goes down. This is how it's seen. This is banks laying golden eggs. It's not based on genuine growth in the real economy. They are creating their own capital base from loans. If it sounds like it's an accident waiting to happen, that's because it was, and it did. Kind of international. So in 1995, Irish banks are starting this happening, and you get really hooked on it because it's an easy way to raise capital. I didn't bring it with me, but if you ever see an image of thank God for job. House prices in Ireland are quite interesting. They go kind of like this. I did a study once of the average industrial wage from 1977 up to 2007. And it goes something like this. And then I did one of the average house price that was being sold at the same time. And this goes something like this. Way, there we go. And that's around 1996, 97. This is not just an Irish thing, this is happening internationally. You could do a graph here of the US housing market, of the Australian housing market, of the UK one. And the ratios may not be the same, but the trend most certainly is. So whatever was driving up house prices during this time period, it was not wages. Because wages are actually keeping in line with inflation. For all of its faults, for all of its problems, partnership did its job. It kept wages in line with inflation, kind of more or less. Now, I'm not going to get monocausal here, but one of the things that's driving it is that banks are able to lay golden eggs here through the securities. And Irish banks are doing this. And they're expressively saying, we're going to take this 200 million and sell more mortgages on the back of this. It reaches a point in 2004 where start mortgages, have you heard of start mortgages at all? No. Start mortgages, that was a subprime, they enter into the subprime market. Brian Lucy, is it? Who's in Trinity? Brian Lucy? He hates talking about it, but he did a report for a study on the subprime mortgage market and the potential for it in 2005, 2006, saying there's no problem here. In fact, house prices, when you look at them historically, are in line with wages. It's okay, you know. So Ireland is well able to march into the subprime mortgage market. He never mentions it, and he never mentions the fee he got for the, for the report that he wrote either, you know. And he's the one now who's now found his inner canes, you know. It's there somewhere. He's found his inner canes is now going to come out. But again, not to get him on a causal and to move on because I know that I'm running out of time. These financial products are having an effect in the Irish economy. And I think that narrative has been obscured because, start mortgages. They issued 780 million. They issued subprime loans. It's all subprime loans. They have completely fallen apart. 60% of their loans now are non-functioning. The thing's an absolute disaster. But they sold 780 million euros in subprime loans. They had no capital. How they funded it was that they sold it, and then they sold other loans, and then they bundled them into a special purpose vehicle, and then we sold that special purpose vehicle on the international markets, and then with the money from that funded then the loans. So these are the things that are going on, and you have, like Brian Lucy saying, what's the problem? But again, just to make that point, we are dealing with things here that are kind of being left out of it. To kind of just bring it to the end thing, this is the overall. This is the amount of Irish mortgage-backed securities that are listed on the Irish Stock Exchange. And so far I've found 76 billion in Irish mortgage-backed securities. That's the breakdown. Start is there somewhere, isn't it? Yeah. Lansdowne Mortgage Securities. Google it. You'll see Moody's every 3 months just saying what's going on here, you know. Lansdowne. AIB one is 11.87 billion. Celtic, a residential Irish mortgage securitization, 20.6 billion. That's Ulster Bank. And so forth and so on and so on. I keep on finding more. Like, last week, I write about this on the web, and someone tipped me off about Amarian residential securities, Irish Nationwide, 2.5 billion. And I'll finish now with this. I just want to tell the story of this mortgage-backed security. It's issued by Irish Nationwide. This is from its prospectus to explain how it works. The whole thing about setting up a mortgage-backed security is that it's supposed to insulate the parent company from any kind of bankruptcy problems. That if the loans start imploding, that Amarian is a public limited company, it takes the hit. But it's been sectioned off away from the parent company, in theory anyway. So it takes the hit and the parent company doesn't get burned for it. That's the theory anyway. And you can see just the rigmarole which you go through here. It's issued in 2009. This is from its statement. It's a private limited company. This is Irish Nationwide in 2009, March 2009. Issues a mortgage-backed security of 2.5 billion and gets a AAA rating from Fitch. Right. In March 2009. By February 2010, it's in dire straits because over 8.61% of the mortgage loans are in serious arrears. And what they mean by that, I think, is more than 3 months with no payment coming in. This is 11 months after Fitch had said AAA rating, and 4 or 5 months after the bank guarantee and the September meltdown. What Irish Nationwide do, this is in 2010, was that they do this bizarre thing where if there's a credit event, for want of a better phrase, the investors have to agree to, all the investors have to agree on any change in the terms of the contract. What Irish Nationwide or like Amarine do is that they unilaterally agree to take those bad non-functioning loans out of that SPV and put in functioning ones instead. And they say we don't have to have a meeting and an agreement with the investors because they're going to benefit from it, so it's all right. In July 2011, the Irish government more or less buys Amarine, takes it underneath its wing, buys it. This is the present government. This is Michael Nolan. And 2 weeks ago, it cashed in the bonds because it had completely failed and paid out par value plus interest to all the investors, 2.5 billion euros plus interest, which would have been the overnight London Bank lending rate plus I think 0.1%. So another one on that. The whole point of having a special purpose vehicle is that it insulates the parent company from any claims on the assets. And this is made clear in the contract when it's signed. The notes will be the obligations of the issuer only. If the notes will not be obligations of and will not be guaranteed by blah 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 Irish Nationwide Building Society or any other company in the same group of companies or affiliated to Irish Nationwide. But the Irish government bought it in July 2011 and paid out full part on it instead. This is the things that are going on. Now, at the moment, just to tie into what's happening now, and I'll finish on this point, you have now, they talk about tracker mortgages being moved into Anglo. Isn't that what's in the newspaper? I've stopped reading Irish Times, so I only hear this on Facebook. But they moved the tracker mortgages. I think this is what they're planning to do. That they're going to do this thing. Well, they moved the tracker mortgages out of the SPVs. There's only 6 billion of them now. Move them into Anglo-Irish. Try and swap them then with every mortgages that are functioning. keep the SPVs functioning and all those investors happy. And then move all those non-functioning loans into Anglo. When instead of actually saying, we've got a situation here, your investment isn't working out and we need the horse trade, which is what you're supposed to do. In fact, you're breaking the contract if you don't do that. That's what the contract states. The contract makes it very, very clear that that's what you do. That's what happens. And then you get into horse trading. So as I said, there's a book value of 76 billion listed. I'm finding more all the time. I haven't even talked about the Irish mortgage promissory note that was brought in as a special one, only for Ireland, in 2001, and then adapted in 2007 for Anglo-Irish Bank, who were able then to issue mortgage-backed promissory notes on commercial holdings. In 2007, law changed. So to finish up, I'm sorry for eating into your time here, Nadia. I'm sorry about that. The problem I see again, just the bigger picture here, is that this is the model of the Irish comprador class. This is how Ireland works. You have Tony O'Reilly, Dermot Desmond, or their ilks, the spawn of them, standing at the door saying, here's Ireland, lads, just a small matter of the entrance fees. And that's how they get paid. And when we start to see Ireland in this kind of, it's the language of the comprador, but I really can't think of a better way of explaining it. From 1922 onwards, this does not arrive with neoliberalism. In the 1980s, Ireland did not embrace neoliberalism. In the 1980s, the rest of the world caught up with Ireland and started to act in our way. And we're so insecure that even when we are world leaders in neoliberalism, we still have to believe that it comes from foreigners. You know what I mean? We just can't believe that we're actually so right-wing, that we've been doing this since 1922. But that's the model here. And I think when we start to see it in these terms, a lot of what happens in Ireland and with finance starts to make sense. And I'll finish there on that.